started. So thank you for everyone for joining today. I want to just provide an overview of how this will work. First of all, I'm Ryan Moore. I work on our codes, products, and standards team. And I'm working on the project manager for this RFP, and I'm also joined by Melanie McMahon, who's with our communities team. And Melanie, if you want to say a few words about yourself, go ahead.
Hi, folks. Melanie McMahon here. I'm a fellow and project manager for the communities and local government team that is, Ryan and I work closely to develop this solicitation, and happy to be here today.
Yeah, Melanie's been tremendous help. She literally wrote most of the solicitation, so I got to give her credit for that. Anyway, in terms of format, we're expecting 60 participants on this call, so everybody's going to be on mute, just so there isn't any background noise. So if you have any questions, we ask that you enter into the chat function, not the Q&A function, but the chat function. And you can direct the questions to the host and the panelists, or the host and presenter. And what I tend to do here is just kind of give you a background on the voluntary benchmarking efforts that we're undertaking, and then walk you through the RFP to help you understand how to submit a proposal and outline exactly what we're looking for. Now, I can't guarantee we'll be able to answer all your questions on this webinar, but we're going to have a recording of this webinar. We'll also have a record of the chat, and we'll be posting all the FAQ documents to the RFP landing page, and I will show you that at the end of the webinar. So with that, we'll get started. This is a quick overview. So what we're looking for is a benchmarking software tool to track buildings that participate in our voluntary benchmarking program. And we're looking to get information pulled from Energy Star Portfolio Manager pulled into this software tool. And in terms of eligibility, it could range, but basically software solution providers, preferably with utility experience. And our key objective here is to track the energy and greenhouse gas emissions of the buildings participating in our Clean Energy Communities voluntary benchmarking program and the Battle of the Buildings contest that Melanie will speak to. And lastly, proposals are due November 4th. So with that, I'll hand it over to Melanie to kind of provide an update on the Clean Energy Communities program.
Thanks, Ryan. So NYSERDA has a Clean Energy Communities, or CEC program. It's targeted to municipalities across the state. We have over 580 participating communities who've been active in this program for over 5 years. The way it works is there are 10 high impact actions that communities can achieve. They submit documentation to show NYSERDA that they've achieved the action, and that unlocks access to grant funding, which they can then use for green and sustainability projects. So a new high impact, and I think we can go to the next slide, Ryan. We'll be adding a new high impact action that's modeled off of US EPA's Battle of the Buildings program. And essentially what it'll do is it'll task municipalities with hosting campaigns that target public and private sector, commercial and multifamily buildings to participate. They will benchmark baseline monthly energy data into US EPA's Energy Star Portfolio Manager. They will share access to their accounts with NYSERDA, and then they will compete for the greatest energy use and greenhouse gas reductions against each other. And this will happen in a community by community basis. And what we really need is the tool to be able to pull data from Energy Star Portfolio Manager and help us succinctly track things at the aggregated level, and to validate participation in the program, ensure there's no data gaps or data issues for participants, to validate winners by showing a period comparison of the EUI and GHG from the baseline to the performance period, and provide a nice building level report card for participants that shows them how they did when they participated in a campaign. So from a program management perspective, those are some of the highlights. But we, as NYSERDA on the back end, are really going to be utilizing this tool to, do some deeper, somewhat deeper level reporting.
Thanks, Melanie. All right, so in terms of objectives, I won't go through and read all these objectives, but we really want to know the role and impact of benchmarking buildings participating in the Clean Energy Communities programs. We want to know about the barriers and solutions to benchmarking, but most importantly, we really want to understand the energy use, the greenhouse gas emissions, and overall sustainability and budgetary performance of these buildings. And it'd be preferable to have a tool that provides actionable insights to the users for building improvements or operational and maintenance practices. So in terms of like the sector size for when we launch this, we're assuming about 1,000 buildings per year to be tracked. NYSERDA plans to cover the cost for this benchmarking software tool for a minimum of 4 years with two-year options to renew, so that it could be up to a total of 8 years for that. NYSERDA, our consultants, which would include the benchmarking implementation contractor, which we're still in the process of selecting, will all need training on the tool, and many of them will need user access to this tool. So one important thing is NYSERDA wants to have the ability to administratively manage all the activities and be able to see what buildings are reporting and what data requirements are still needed to produce the required reports and assessments that we're looking for. Is there anything you wanted to add to that, Melanie?
Just that pay attention in the RFP. There are some, base core requirements that we're really looking for to manage the Battle of the Buildings program. And then there's some, additional features that we'd like to know if you're capable of, because this tool and the scope might expand in the future. And so just keep in mind some things are, required, and then some things are, do you have this capability? It's not required, but it's desired.
Great. Yeah, so adding on to what Melanie said, right now, this is just going to be a voluntary benchmarking effort, but in 2018, NYSERDA released the New Efficiency New York white paper, which outlined key strategies to really improve the efficiency of buildings and residential households across New York State. And it sets a goal to meet an ambitious target of 185 billion BTUs of end-use energy savings below the 2025 energy use forecast. So by meeting the 2025 energy efficiency target, New York is expected to deliver about 1/3 of greenhouse gas emissions with a goal of a 40% reduction by 2030. And when we look at the benchmarking mandate that's happened in New York City, they've seen a 14% reduction in building energy use intensity over the past 4 years, basically proving the value of benchmarking. So I recommend proposers read the sections regarding the benchmarking to better understand how the state plans to benchmark and improve efficiency. So the new Efficiency New York white paper is a good paper to refer to. Additionally, last year we passed the CLCPA, which is the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. And that calls for all buildings and homes to be carbon neutral by mid-century. So that further supports the importance of having a robust statewide benchmarking mandate in the coming years. So in anticipation of a statewide benchmarking mandate, we also want to know from proposers, like their CRM functionality, whether it's a two-way CRM capability to communicate compliance of buildings participating in a mandatory program. And right now, NYSERDA currently uses Salesforce to manage our CRM needs. So if your system does not integrate with Salesforce or does not include a full two-way CRM capability, we would like to have you address that in your proposal of how you might be able to integrate with Salesforce to support the program management. We also want the CRM function to be able to provide reminders, notifications to encourage data updates, auto-populate targeted messaging, and this could include template letters or emails, particularly for non-compliant buildings.
Just a note on that, just to go back. So
Sure.
for the voluntary part of this scope, which is what the RFP intends to achieve, we don't need two-way CRM functionality. We just need it to work where you have a process for communicating errors or issues with benchmarking submissions to building owners that we can leverage. So this can be a canned email that attaches a standard report that it helps us with program management for the voluntary benchmarking portion. However, if we were to move to an environment where there's a statewide mandate and this tool or software solution, works and it transitions to, managing statewide compliance. If you have these additional functionality and can serve in that capacity in the future, we'd like to know that when you list your additional functionality.
Great, thanks, Melanie. Next slide. Okay, so for the benchmarking software tool eligibility requirements, the minimum input requirements we've listed in attachment A, which I'll talk about in a further slide, but essentially the minimum input requirements is all the building data points that are entered into Energy Star Portfolio Manager. We also want data tracking requirements. So this is simple tracking of building data from the Portfolio Manager, including historical data of each building. There's also an analysis component. So we want to have the ability to analyze the Portfolio Manager data points, such as a building's EUI, energy use intensity, the performance, and be able to compare buildings between other buildings of the same size and type. We're also looking for a visual dashboard, and this must be able to generate and provide visual dashboard of building performance, energy insight metrics, both at the building level and at the portfolio level if it's a group of buildings. Ultimately, the dashboard would be an outward-facing dashboard view that can be embedded on other websites to display performance of regional voluntary campaigns, or we kind of prefer integration with Tableau because that's what we use right now. Or you can propose a similar software to populate the dashboard display. And essentially, we want this for campaign data for public view. And we also want the reporting, sharing, and accessing data requirements, such as the utility data provided at the building, account, and meter level, and the building characteristics. And I'll talk more about this in attachment C. And most of this will be used for internal purposes. If we do make it public, we would want the data anonymized. And for the voluntary benchmarking effort, we'll only need basically one-way communication protocol, but we would really like to know, like we said on that last slide, your additional capabilities that would be needed if a statewide benchmarking mandate happens. Okay, so benchmarking software requirements. Like the slide says, we want to know your licensing and contracting service options. We want you to explain your licensing and contracting options in your proposal, and then also in attachment F, which is the Excel spreadsheet, the budget and fee proposal, we'd like you to provide the costs for the licensing and contract service options. And I will bring up these attachments so we can go into more detail about that. We do want, first of all, we do want an off-the-shelf solution. We're not looking to create this tool from scratch. So we're interested in the ability to configure the tool to the needs of the Clean Energy Communities Voluntary Benchmarking Program. We'll be coordinating initial setup project requirements, and we'll do that in consultation with our benchmarking implementation contractor that we're looking to select soon. This also includes, in terms of requirements, hosting, maintaining, and updating the web application in the database. And it also includes providing a training to NYSERDA, our consultants on this program, specific to the tool's capabilities and data entry for the initial launch of the program. So we want to make sure the NYSERDA staff and our consultants working on this have a good understanding of how to use this system, especially as it relates to the Battle of the Buildings program. And we're also looking for ongoing customer support for NYSERDA staff and consultants, but this would be directed specifically from NYSERDA project managers, so that would be on an as-needed basis. And we're also looking to archive the data collected for the benchmarking tool for the full term of the contract. We said in the RFP for up to 10 years, but if the contract is a 4-year contract with two-year renewals, that's only 8 years. So obviously we'll agree to take that data after the conclusion of the contract. Let's see if there's anything else. And we also would like to learn more about the capabilities and expertise in providing alternatives for populating reports, the visuals and the dashboards, such as the compatibility or experience with Tableau software, or using a comparable visualization software tool. Is there anything else you want to add to that, Melanie?
No, I think you're covering it well. Thank you.
Okay, great. Okay, so there are a lot of attachments to this RFP, and I want to go over each one of them with you. So let me just escape out of this and go here. Okay, so this is the RFP landing page. After this webinar is done, this is where we'll be posting our FAQs for all the questions that come in today. And the first attachment is attachment A, so I just want to show you that. So these are the minimum benchmarking tool input requirements. Essentially, these are all the data points that we're looking to collect from Energy Star Portfolio Manager. So it's all listed here. I want to make sure I can blow this up so you can see it. We list all the key data points we want to capture and the different energy quantities that we want to track, from electricity to gas to everything from biomass to diesel and even gasoline. So that's attachment A. Is there anything else you want to add to attachment A, Melanie?
Well, the link that's provided there is from Energy Star Portfolio Manager's website in reference to web services, and has the it lists all the custom reporting metrics, essentially all the data points within those categories that are listed above that Energy Star does capture. we like to assume that somebody who's a established web services provider would have the ability and relationship to collect all those data points. However, when it comes to the program management for the Battle of the Buildings, we may not need to collect, all, 1,500 or 2,000 data points that are available. It probably will get narrowed down substantially to a core set of data points that we really need to serve the purposes of benchmarking and capturing EUI and GHG and doing period comparisons. So we like to see that functionality is available through your system. But when it comes down to negotiation and firming up the contract, we'll firm up those data points more specifically. But as you scroll down, the key data points to capture and manage generally would be the following: start and end date, the type of fuel, the native units of the fuel, and some of those other key points, as well as some building information such as the building address and latitude, longitude. We'll be capturing square footage, building type, capturing occupancy information, and some other key data points used to develop an Energy Star score. But please use this as a good reference.
Thanks, Melanie. Okay, moving on to attachment B. Let me blow this up. So attachment B, this is what we're looking for the tool to have, is basically be able to identify class 1 and class 2 data errors and program compliance checks. This attachment lists everything, and for a full list of the portfolio manager list, there's a link in this attachment. And the error report, the class error reporting is described here in this. So look at this when you refer to attachment C, the reports and visualization requirements. We want to make sure this is included.
Right. Yeah, and just to put this in context, for the Battle of the Buildings voluntary benchmarking program, municipalities will have to have a certain minimum number of buildings participate from start to finish to be considered kind of an eligible participant in order to achieve that high impact action to get that grant funding through that program. So we have a series of reports that we'd like to have so that a building participant can be validated. So not only do they just share their account access to NYSERDA, but the data in there, needs to be correct. It can't have any gaps and serious errors, and it can't be default data, those kind of things. So we're going to kind of rely on a report to establish participation. So the class 1 error reporting are alerts already available through Energy Star Portfolio Manager, but we just need a way to capture those alerts in the platform, the software tool from Energy Star. And then the class 2 errors, we're hoping that your system has some way of going beyond Energy Star's alerts to identify irregularities in the usage that might impact the energy use intensity or the greenhouse gas emissions numbers that we're seeing. And to the extent that it's available to identify irregularities in cost. However, even though we'd like that functionality, this will primarily focus on usage. So we may not capture very much cost data for this program. So even though that's in there, we would like that to be a consideration and a functionality that is available or can be added in the future. Please focus more so on the way energy usage information and greenhouse gas emissions data is captured.
Yeah. And one question that came in that I should clarify is, the question is, are you planning to have building owners share their portfolio manager account with NYSERDA through web services or download the information? And yes, we are expecting to have all the building owners put their information into portfolio manager and share that information with a NYSERDA account. Melanie, is there anything you want to add to that?
Just that the way we're designing the program now, we're anticipating requiring view all read only access of a building participant's account just to eliminate any user error of them customizing different meters and information and data from their account when sharing with NYSERDA. So it's easier for them to just share, view all read only. So that's the way we're leading with it. But we may not need all of that data from the NYSERDA Energy Star Portfolio Manager account that gets shared to be pulled into this tool. We're really going to hone in and focus on what do we really need to manage the Battle of the Buildings program under NYSERDA and New York State's kind of very strict data security and privacy rules, which we'll get into later.
Yep. And another question that came in that I could field it. The question was, has a benchmarking implementation consultant been selected? If not, is there a conflict of interest if we provide both services and would like to bid on those as well? So, Melanie, could you guys give an update of how we're selecting the benchmarking implementation contractor, and if there could be both the software provider and the implementation contractor?
Sure. We were happy to pass that question along to legal to confirm. At this time, I don't think that there is a conflict of interest, that the software tool provider could also be the implementation contractor. I don't think I'm at liberty to share the development or timeline of when that solicitation will be available. But they're going to line up very closely and be in place, both the platform or software tool and the implementation contractor, before a launch of the Battle of the Buildings program, which we expect to be out on the streets around Q2 of 2021.
Thanks. All right, and moving on to attachment C, which is the reporting and visualization requirements. This provides an overview of what type of reporting and visualization capabilities we're looking for, basically to track, evaluate, and measure benchmarking progress between buildings. This kind of lists everything that we're looking for in the report. And again, I need to blow this up to make sure you guys can see it. But in terms of reporting and visualization, refer to attachment C.
Yeah, so, a couple of notes on that attachment C. Most of these reports are going to be for internal use for NYSERDA staff and the implementation contractor, who will be responsible for um, relaying QA, QC issues in the data to building owners and liaisoning with the building owners to correct and remedy the data in order to be able to participate. So that's why they might be able to run reports that are at the account and meter level to validate the information. We'd like those reports to be available in a variety of formats. Even though Energy Star Portfolio Manager does have a methodology for calculating EY and doing some weather normalization, in the event that Energy Star Portfolio Manager may be down for some instance, and we may need to add data to your platform directly in the interim, etc., we would like to see there be functionality to calculate these things out of your tool directly. We'd like to be able to do year-over-year comparisons and period comparisons, because these campaigns will be run quarterly. So we want to capture at least 12 months of baseline data, although it probably will be more because of COVID, which is why we say maybe 1 to 3 years of historical data may be captured, and compare it to a performance period of a quarter, so 3 months of during the campaign. And we also, in the aggregate or in the portfolio level, need to be able to, from a program management perspective, report on buildings in the system from a New York State jurisdiction level. So these need to be able to be grouped by municipality essentially. So, and we'd like to be able to, filter reports based on square footage size or ownership type or, other geography, et cetera, or utility vendor, et cetera. So that's why some of this information is in here. And so we understand perhaps that some of those reports are kind of standard in your system, and we'd like to see what those reports look like. However, if there may be a small nuance in what's included here that you don't provide, that's where the configuring of the tool comes in, and we will reference that later within that specific task and the scope of work. And then the hours within the budget and fee proposal, where we allot a certain number of hours to kind of these ideas of configuration and development that are included. And when it comes to this screenshots of example dashboards and platforms, we acknowledge that your tool may not be the place where you create those dashboards or scorecards, building level report cards. Maybe you draw the data into a Tableau or a Power BI or something like that. We get that. We want to see what the examples of those visuals look like. Let's see. And then later in the, proposal submission, we reference how we'd like to understand examples of when you've provided that service or created that dashboard or created that report card, for another program or a portfolio client, et cetera.
Yes, and we'll get into that right now. So attachment D is the proposal outline. And this kind of covers what we're looking for. It's an overview of what the proposal itself should include. So one-page cover letter, a qualification summary of up to 2 pages. And also you can include on top of that the proposer checklist, which is attachment I, and I'll get into that in a later slide. And also your statement of work as it applies to attachment. What is the statement of work attachment? It's attachment E. So we'll want about 3 pages on that and make sure you can meet the tasks that are outlined in that statement of work in attachment E. We'll also want to learn more about your tool, the additional functionality and benefits you might be able to provide. That's about 2 to 3 pages. And we're also interested in the team experience, which could mean like resumes of the staff involved and also any experience with other benchmarking programs that you've done. And we'll also want a list of references that we can contact. 3 references should be fine. And lastly, the budget and fee proposal, which is attachment F, and we'll get into that as well. That is basically the Excel spreadsheet that we're trying to compare budgets, do an apples to apples comparison between proposals, because we know the costs and licensing and different aspects of this tool might be billed differently based on the contractor. So we'll get into more of that into the next slide.
Yeah, and just a note on the page limits. So for the statement of work and project schedule, the 3 pages is, your written portion, your explanation, other information you want to supply outside of the actual statement of work attachment. So, the statement of work, we'll get into this later. It's an evolving document. We've proposed one, and it contains most of the elements with which we'd like to substantiate through this contract. You can mark that up and supply your changes or comments, and then you still have 3 pages to, speak to certain elements of it or, offer an alternative. And that proposer checklist, same deal. So I think it might be a 2-page, PDF. And, we want you to checkbox that and fill it out, but then you still have, I think a page to supply a written portion to supplement that attachment. So the 17 pages is like kind of your written portion only, and it excludes attachments, just in case that wasn't clear.
Yeah, so if there's extra stuff you want to include, just include it as attachments, and that'll be fine. So that's the overview on Attachment D. We'll now get into Attachment E, which is a statement of work and proposal schedule. So this is important because with the statement of work, we basically want you to go through each task. And for instance, task 1 is the software tool configuration and implementation. It outlines all 9 tasks in the statement of work. And we're hoping once we contract with, once we select a vendor and we execute the contract, we're hoping to get this benchmarking tool executed within 7 weeks of the contract. And it should include a schedule to complete each task. This is kind of outlined here. I'll just quickly go through the tasks that are listed in the statement of work. So, like I said, task 1 was software tool configuration and implementation. Task 2 is training and customer support. Here we're looking for maybe having like a half-day training to train NYSERDA and our consultants on this tool. And we do expect some customer support in case any of our consultants have questions using the tool. So we might need support on an as-needed basis. Task 3 is NYSERDA's tools, updates, and testing. And that's important. That's important because we want to make sure that we have a QC process in place before pushing anything live to production. So that'll be important. Task 4 is just project management. Task 5 is the billing and invoicing. Task 6 is data management, which covers the maintenance and the backup of the data. The key task there is to pull raw data from the portfolio manager daily. And these portfolio manager accounts can be shared with NYSERDA, and NYSERDA's consultants with administrative rights to serve as a repository for raw data independent of the contractor's involvement. And then task 7 is just additional technical support or analysis. So we might need you to provide a customized report that we'd be looking for, or additional analysis in looking at the Battles of Buildings campaign. And that leads into task 8, where with the Battles of Buildings program, task 8 would be communicating to building owners and operators through the benchmarking software tool. So this is where you would send out information just to let them know if there's any outstanding information you need for the Battle of the Buildings campaign. And our implementation contractor will be overseeing this and conveying that to the software benchmarking software provider. And then the last task here is the project schedule and template. So these are all the tasks. I'm just scrolling through them real quick, but I encourage you to take a look at that. And in your proposal, if there's anything in here that you have issue with or might not be able to complete, just provide a description of a proposed alternative of how you can meet that. That would be great.
Yeah, and just in regards to a couple of things and a couple of these tasks. For task 1, for the software tool and configuration and implementation, this is where we're trying to leave room for minor configuration and tweaks to the tool to serve NYSERDA's purposes. Maybe you have a standard report for, reporting most things, but, it doesn't naturally break down to New York State jurisdiction. So you're going to make a change so that we can produce a report that serves that purpose, et cetera. We would love it if the tool already had all of that functionality, and that would certainly be our preference. But this is where we're leaving some room to, develop the reports kind of the way we need them and to work with you. And certainly to develop that building level report card, which wouldn't just be a table of information, it would be more of like an outward facing thing that we give a building participant that has more kind of visuals on it and less table information. So, just to give you some perspective on that, it'll be there'll be a scoping meeting and, we'll work to develop a proposal of what that will look like and to kind of outline the time and the tasks associated with any configuration if needed. And then for task 7, we got a question for this, and we haven't submitted our formal responses to those questions, and we will soon. Or was it? I'm sorry, not task 7, but um, task 3. Okay, so in here, there's reference to SAC 3 certification. We would like to just relay that this statement of work is a kind of a template of what you might expect to see from NYSERDA, but it's a proposed statement of work. It's not final, and it's not the contractual statement of work. So we understand that this might not be the full and complete um, security protocol that we would need the vendor to conform to. So we're working with legal and contracts to classify the data that we really do need to collect for program management and to better articulate what the security protocols are that we will ask the vendor to conform to and add to the statement of work. We will speak to where all those New York State requirements are in a later slide, and encourage you to read through some of these additional materials in light of that.
Great. Thanks, Melanie. So that was attachment E, which is the statement of work, and I'll move on to the next attachment. Attachment F, which is the budget and fee proposal. It's actually an Excel spreadsheet, and I'll pull that up right now. All right, so with this, this is our best guess of trying to get an apples-to-apples comparison between all the proposals we get. So Table A, that provides a price per building that reflects task 2 through 6 and task 8 that's outlined in that statement of work attachment we just went over. The price per building for proposal evaluation purposes will focus on the costs provided for up to 1,000 buildings. And we want the proposers to assume each building has an average of 1 to 4 meters, and that 1 to 3 years of historical and 48 months of ongoing utility data will be warehoused in that tool. Table B, these are user costs, are optional if you don't charge based on the number of users, and we'd include these fees within the cost of a per building. So we're looking for a cost per building fee that's preferable for us. And a user is defined as the individual using the benchmarking software tool. And you can assume approximately 50 NYSERDA staff and consultants would be using the tool per year. And then Table C. Melanie, are you able to see that clearly? I might.
It's a little small, but yeah, that's better.
There we go. All right. So Table A, that's the warehousing and account management and maintenance tasks. Table B is the user cost that I just covered. And Table C, we'd like to see you provide a blended hourly rate to perform the services outlined in tasks 1 and 7 of the statement of work, which is attachment E that we just went over. And we want you to assume 100 hours annually, with these activities generally being building report card template for configurations, testing and launch, ad hoc advanced reporting requests, and other dashboard development activities. Just to note that your blended hourly rate should be the average of the rates of those identified in the RFP as being those who will work directly on the contract and those whose rates are included in the budget form tab, which is right here. So let me just blow this up. And this is where you would list the staff involved and their hourly rates. And there's instructions at the top to kind of guide you through that. So if you have any questions. And we understand that the market uptake of this benchmarking software tool may take time. So in addition to filling out attachment F, in your proposal, include a written portion of your budget and fee proposal of like how pricing changes depending on the number of buildings and the number of buildings being managed in the tool and the length of the agreement. So please share any opportunities you think you have in terms of achieving efficiency in pricing that NYSERDA should consider. So if there's other options that don't necessarily fit into here, we'd like that described in your proposal, some other options.
Yeah, and just a note, there was a question on this, and apologies if the table didn't include this, but for table A, NYSERDA is really looking to understand annual costs. So the cost per building would be the cost per building per year, essentially, for the up to 250, 500, and 1,000 buildings, et cetera. So, just roll that up to annual numbers. And then if you'd like, if you, do charge, based on the per building per month, and that's important to you, just write some sort of explanation in the written section that references that, and just also please note that we do want a written section for that accompanies this attachment that explains any opportunities NYSERDA has to maximize costs or considerations depending on the market uptake of the program, any ways to reduce costs that you foresee that you think would be advantageous to NYSERDA, in the written section. So you can find information on the questions we're interested in you answering in the proposal submission attachment, which the name escapes me. Give me 1 second. Sorry. In the proposal outline attachment D, there's information on how to supply additional information to this spreadsheet in the written portion.
Great. Thanks, Melanie. And the next attachment is attachment G. Now, this is our sample agreement. This is a standard agreement with all our exhibits in terms and conditions. So this would be attached to the statement of work. This is the general template we use for most of our projects. And I just want proposers to take a look at this, look at the terms and conditions, look at the exhibits. If there's anything in there that you have exceptions to, please let us know in your proposal. And we'll have to work with our contracts and legal to see if there's a workaround for that. So this is really just, if you've had a contract with NYSERDA in the past, this might look familiar. This is attached to all contract agreements, so take a look at that. It's just for your reference, and again, if there's any issues with that, please outline it in your proposal.
Yeah, and one note in here too that you should pay attention to. There on page 13 of that sample agreement, there's reference to a section called Rights and Information Confidentiality. So this is section 8.01 and then subsection E. So this is where there are links and footnotes to New York State's information classification policy and security controls standards. So when it comes to security requirements for the software tool, please refer to these documents to get a general understanding of what New York State requires us to uphold for all of our technology vendors. And then as we work through the data classification of the data points we'll be collecting from Energy Star Portfolio Manager, the security standards that will apply to you as the vendor will kind of emerge out of these links. And then I think the next slide, Ryan, is it the next slide that also has a link to doing business with NYSERDA?
Yes. Let me see if I can pull that up.
I will just pull it up now. So this presentation will be available on the solicitation webpage, and there's a link on the bottom you can click directly. It's a page that NYSERDA has. It's called Doing Business with NYSERDA, and it outlines kind of everything that a vendor should expect to be able to conform to when having a contract with NYSERDA. But the section that you should check out is the information security section, which is sort of near the bottom of the page, but it has policy standards and guidelines for information security with several links on vulnerability scanning, security logging standards, patch management standards, and encryption standards. So please check those out to vet your system against these New York State requirements.
Thanks, Melanie. So I just want to go back. We covered that. Also, I do want to make a note on how to apply. If you haven't applied through NYSERDA before, there is a portal to submit your proposals, and they're due November 3rd at 3 p.m. I highly encourage you to at least give yourself an hour to submit through the portal. And in case you have any issues, you can call us. And Elcida Sheldon is our Salesforce person who will be able to walk you through that. But it's very important that you log on to that early and don't wait till the last minute to apply. So let me just, when we went through that. Okay, so I just want to get into the proposal evaluation, and I will talk about that last attachment I. But first, I just want to go over the proposal evaluation. So these are the criteria in order of importance. So with the benchmarking software, it's an evaluation of the tool itself. And that's listed in the proposer eligibility requirements. We want to understand your tool's ability to meet the data tracking requirements, the ability to meet the analysis and reporting requirements, your visual dashboard generation requirements, and also your reporting, sharing, and accessing data requirements. So that's pretty much the evaluation criteria for the benchmarking software itself. For case studies, we're looking for proposers to demonstrate their experience by providing at least 2 case studies where your benchmarking software tool was successfully implemented. And these can include the services, the products of this tool, and the impacts. And it would be good to include the visuals and ease of use. And also include like 2 customer-facing reports or scorecards that are included with the system that you've used in other benchmarking programs. And to the extent that the case studies include information on services and products offered, like the building types covered, the impacts in terms of energy and cost savings, the visuals, such as the benchmarking and dashboards, the ease of use and accessibility. This can be a testimonial, for example. So we'll be looking for that and 3 references to speak to your platform. cost effectiveness is pretty much straightforward. We'll be comparing proposals based on the attachment F, which is that budget spreadsheet, to try to figure out which is the most cost effective. Next, in order of importance, is the experience and team qualifications. Like I mentioned, this is past experience with your platform and the qualification of your team members. And then we'll be looking at the project statement of work, the schedule and the timeline, and if you're able to meet all the tasks and deliverables outlined in the statement of work, which is attachment E. And contracting, just for that, our preferred option is to hold a license for the software. But if that's not possible, we'd like to hear other options that you might suggest. Is there anything else you want to add to this, Melanie?
Nope, this looks good.
Okay. And the statement of work.
Yeah, I think we're good on that. Just mark up the proposed with, any comments and anything in the written section that you feel that we need to discuss or, weigh when we evaluate proposals.
Yeah. And we went over this. All right. Before we do end it, I do want to go over attachment I, because that is an important attachment. So the last attachment H, I should go over that too. Attachment H is our web-related contract addendum. This is basically our IT requirements for the platform. And take a look at this and please provide any comments in your proposal about being able to meet these requirements, whether you can meet all these requirements and what you cannot meet, because that's very important to us. And lastly, but not leastly, is attachment I. So this is the proposer checklist, and this is really important because these are all the different features that we're looking for from this benchmarking tool. And it's an easy checkbox, so if you check something yes, or if you check something no, you can write comments in here. It's a form fillable PDF, so if there's something that you can't support at this time, just provide comments as any alternative options that you might be able to provide. It's a 2-page sheet, but this is what we'll be using essentially to compare all proposals. And once the scoring team, I should get into this, the evaluation of this. It's going to be made up of both internal and external reviewers who have background in benchmarking, and we'll initially score and rank all the proposals, but there might be a second step. There's a good chance we will call in a few of the proposers to give us a web demo of their platform. So we'll be able to ask questions there on the spot. We're hoping to do that sometime in the first week of December. So we will coordinate with you if we want a demo of your platform. And I think
just one note about this checklist really quick. So
sure.
In attachment D, proposal outline, where it kind of goes over the base things that you submit with your proposal. The qualification section is where we're referencing this proposal checklist. So if you check yes to everything in an ideal world, great, that's what we would love. If you check no to something, we ask that you provide a written explanation of why you feel that you could not provide that item on the checklist. And you'll have up to 2 pages to do that. So you won't be immediately disqualified if you can't, check yes to everything. However, there are a few things that, are kind of like base requirements that we definitely want you to be able to provide. So on the checklist, 1.7, 1.6, 1.11, and 1.13 are considered base requirements for contract viability and consideration. So we just want to draw reference to those. So we want to make sure that, out of that checklist, that those four things you definitely are able to do in order to, meet a minimum for consideration. So just a note on that checklist, and that, if you do check no to something, to just provide an explanation that we can consider with our evaluation.
Great. Thanks, Melanie. Let's see here. Okay, so this is the last of the webinar. I encourage you guys to take down our information. The last person here, Elcida Sheldon, she's our contracts person, so if you have any contractual questions or if you have any issues with the portal, she's the one to contact. She's super helpful with the portal, so she'll be able to help you out. Otherwise, feel free to reach out to Melanie or myself if you have any other questions. I do see that we have a few questions in the chat, so I will go over some of these. Okay, Melanie, could you provide more details as to the functions expected of the implementation contractor as it compares to the benchmarking software contractor?
Yes. So the implementation contractor will sort of be the front line with the building owner and interact with the municipality on campaigns. So they'll provide, tools and resources to use Energy Star Portfolio Manager, but they will, run a report that says, okay, municipality A got 30 people who are interested who pledged to do a campaign. Only 20 of them have actually shared information from Energy Star Portfolio Manager with NYSERDA, and then that information was pulled into the software tool, and of the 20, 6 or 7 of them show that they have a series of data errors. The implementation contractor takes those reports and then goes back to the building owner and, hopefully uses the platform with a one-way email communication that includes, detail on those errors, and it instructs the building owner to go back into Energy Star to fix the data so that it gets pulled again, and then we're slowly getting back to more complete data. So the implementation contractor liaisons with building owners and municipalities running campaigns to get people kind of prepped and ready with, good baseline data. And then they are there as technical assistants for building owners to make sure the data is entered correctly and shared to NYSERDA correctly. And then I guess more detail might be needed in your question, and feel free to submit it formally in to the RFP. But if you need more detail on where your tasks end and the implementation contractor starts, I think we have most of the idea of how that may happen. But in some instances, we might rely on the software tool provider to provide more technical diagnostics on issues in regards to pulling data from Energy Star, and then for issues in the data resulting from errors due to data entry from the building owner's perspective, we would be relying more on the implementation contractor to help remedy those mistakes so that better data is pulled back into the system.
Great. Thanks, Melanie. There's another question here that I could answer. It says, my organization is based in Vancouver, British Columbia. Is there a preference for New York or U.S.-based organizations? Honestly, it is a bonus to be located in New York, but we cannot count that against you if you're outside the country or even outside New York State. So there is not going to be added points because somebody's in New York. It really comes down to the services you can offer particularly in that proposal checklist in attachment I, that all the functionality and capabilities that we're looking for. So
yeah, data does have to be, it needs to be stored in the US. So the servers that will manage the data need to be in the United States. So that is a requirement for the software. And all of that detail is included in that link to doing business with NYSERDA and the other New York State security protocols and requirements.
yeah. And another question came in, can any references come from current NYSERDA staff from other divisions? Now, I understand we do have a benchmarking platform for our P through 12 schools effort. So yes, if you want to use a NYSERDA staff person who manages that as a reference, go right ahead. That's totally fine. And another question here is, will you provide a list of the attendees at this meeting? Unfortunately, we can't provide the full list of attendees. We'd have to get everyone's okay to share that information. But it looks like we have 41 people right now, so there are quite a few people interested in proposing. Okay, another question is the two-year option to renew in addition to the 4-year standard agreement? Yes. So we would award a 4-year agreement, and if everything is going well and we're happy with the service we're getting through this tool, we'll do the first 2-year option to renew, and then after that 2 years is up, we'll look to renew for another 2 years. Okay. I just want to make sure I got this right. This was not clear. Please confirm if all data will be in a single NYSERDA PM account to access, or a NYSERDA portfolio manager account to access. Yep. Okay. Another question is said, we said we want to hold the license, yet the RFP describes using the tool as a service. What do you desire? Melanie, you want to take that one?
Yeah, maybe that wasn't clear. We'd like to license the, white label license the system from you. We don't want to, own the system in any way or anything like that. So we consider ourselves users of your platform with, our own view with our data not being shared with any other customer of yours, and our data, needs to be, protected from access. We want to know who has access to it from your company, etc. But certainly we would understand that it'd be, software as a service type of relationship.
Yeah, and to add on to that, we had another question. If the proposer has a software as a service license agreement, can they submit that as an attachment to the contracting documents? I think we may need to check with contracts and legal on that, but do you have any thoughts, Melanie?
I think that would probably be a good idea with your statement of work attachment, but if you could do the hard work for us and compare, our statement of work and our sample agreement to your, draft software as a service agreement and draw the parallels and call out the differences, that's going to make it easier for us to evaluate all the proposals and to award a vendor sooner.
Thanks. Another question is, are there any minority women-owned business entities goals for this procurement? That I'm not sure about. In terms of our evaluation, that is not going to add extra points. Although it's a bonus, I don't believe it's going to add any additional points to the proposal. But like I said, we're going to have a record of all these questions, and we will be posting them. Let me just show you again. We're going to be posting them here on the RFP landing page. So all the FAQs with the vetted answers will be here. We'll hopefully have that posted later this week, most likely early next week. So just keep checking back on that. And as always, feel free to reach out to Melanie or I if you have any questions. Looks like we got one more question. How do we ensure our company is on the email list to receive the RFP for benchmarking implementation services contract? So, Melanie, could you describe how we're bidding out the benchmarking implementation contract?
Yes, so there's a couple things here. One is this RFP for the technology for the software tool is kind of an open solicitation to everyone, which is why we kind of did the work to find vendors and web services providers and other NYSERDA program participants to be on the list. We put it out on the contract reporter and kind of tried to spread the word that way. There are other instances where NYSERDA will generally choose to put out solicitations to an already vetted preferred contractor list. So there's FlexTech, Flexergy. These are, programs that you if you're not already signed up for, you should consider looking into, because there may be solicitations that are, and this goes beyond just benchmarking. I'm talking in general, that may go beyond, that won't be out on the open market. That'll be driven toward preferred contracting lists. So there are several ways that NYSERDA puts out solicitations. So I can't say which way or the other the implementation contractor solicitation will be directed, but those are all the ways that NYSERDA puts out solicitations that you should be aware of.
Yeah, if it does turn out to be a solicitation, we will definitely share it with the attendees. But like Melanie said, if we decide to go through the FlexTech pool, the way that works is we essentially issue a mini bid to the FlexTech pool and let them propose, because they've been vetted already. They've implemented other programs, so they would be ideal contractors to serve this program. But if there's an option for these your software providers that are on the line today to do implementation as well, if that's available, we will definitely make it known to you and follow up with you afterward. And we're getting close to the 3:15 deadline. I don't see any other questions. Just pulling it up. Yeah, it looks like that's it. So everybody, I appreciate you guys staying on the webinar and going through all the attachments with us. And again, our emails are there. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any other questions that come up. And proposals are due November 4th. And with that, I think I'll end the webinar, and we will talk to you guys. Hopefully see some proposals in the beginning of November.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. Bye.